So I was inspired this morning to share with you how to cook lentils. I was inspired because they are so delicious and they are a great high source of healthy protein. So I decided to use black lentils. These are black lentils, or they're called beluga black lentils because they kind of look like caviar. So I washed them up, put them in this pot for my instant pot. And next I want to add the onion and the garlic. So when I do beans or lentils, I usually start with a base of onion and garlic. It just gives a depth of flavor. And of course, onion is a great anti-cancer food. It's so important to have it in our eating, and it adds such a great taste. Onion is a pungent food in flavor, but interestingly, when it's cooked, it makes things taste sweeter. So now my garlic, I just dice that a bit. In goes the garlic. And now all we have to do is put in the liquid, which we'll do now. And I just put in enough liquid to cover the lentils by about 1.5 to 2 inches. So there he is. Now we're going to add the fun part, the herbs and spices. So I love using oregano for beans and lentils. It just gives a lovely flavor. And we want to add an anti-inflammatory element, turmeric. So I put in about a half teaspoon of turmeric. And that's a great anti-inflammatory food. In order to activate its properties, you need to add ground black pepper. So I'm going to put in some ground black pepper. That should do it. And then oil. We want to be really judicious with oil in a bottle because it can build plaque in the body and it's not the most healthy of ingredients. So I'm just adding a tablespoon. In he goes. And with this, I rub my hands with the oil because it's good for the skin. Now, salt is a no until the dish is cooked. So I just leave that aside, and then I'll use that once the lentils have been cooked. But to activate the turmeric, you need black pepper and oil. So that helps to make it really anti-inflammatory. Now the good news is with your Instant Pot, we just plunk this in the Instant Pot, add the lid, on goes our lid ski, and turn them on. And for lentils, I'll look at my sheet. I don't think it takes very long. It takes 6 to 8 minutes. So press on that cancel, press again. I'll bring this down to 6, 7 minutes. We'll compromise. That's all I have to do. And then when that's all completed, I'll add my sea salt. And you notice this is sea salt with iodine, because sea salt without iodine added doesn't have much. And we want to make sure we get enough iodine for our thyroid function. So I use this sea salt iodized. That's the story. Now, last important thing. all of this liquid that I used, and I'll pour it back in my pot, comes from making my own stock. Now you can buy no salt vegetable stock, but you can also just use purified water. If you eat all organic, and I mean everything you buy is organic, you can use the peelings in a big pot like this, cover it with purified water, and boil it up and make your own stock. I love that because it's using the nutrients like in the stalks of greens, carrot tops, beet tops, onion skins, garlic skins, squash peelings, anything and everything that will go in there. And you boil it up, cover it with water, and then you can use that to use in beans, lentils, or soups that you make. It's great. It adds a lot of flavor and a lot of nutrient. And one other tip, you know, when you cook your veggies with a little purified water, and after the cooking you have a bit left in the bottom of the pan, drink that. That's where the nutrients are. You don't want to miss out. Okay, so enjoy making lentils. Now Bill's going to talk with us. What are you going to talk about, Bill?
The value of lentils, beans and lentils.
Great.
So this is a great dish. And when we encourage people to eat whole food plant-based, they often say, well, where do I get my protein? So beans and lentils are the replacement for the nutrients that meat and dairy provide in a diet. And the difference between eating lentils to get your protein and nutrients versus animal and dairy, or meat and dairy, excuse me, is that the protein levels are about the same. But when you have the meat, you're gaining a lot of saturated fat that comes with the meat. And we were listening to Dr. Greger this morning, and he was pointing out that the breast cancer survival rate goes way up when people eliminate meat and dairy from their diet. And what they're finding, the reason for that is the lower rates of fat. There's very, very little fat in beans and lentils, and the fat that's in there is not saturated. So the saturated fat apparently upregulates the CD36 fat receptor on your cells. Now that's a mouthful, but basically it's so amazing how research is really finding exactly the mechanics of what's going on. When we eat saturated fat, when we put saturated fat in the body, there's a site on our cells that seems to promote the spreading of cancer. So that's why low-fat diets really seem to be lower the risk of cancer. Besides the less fat, almost no fat and no saturated fat that beans and lentils have when we replace meat and dairy with that, they also have no cholesterol. So the benefits of beans and lentils over meat and dairy is no cholesterol. And the other factor that's really important in terms of our health is that beans and lentils are anti-inflammatory, whereas meat and dairy are highly inflammatory. And they're beginning to show, the research is beginning to show the relationship of inflammation in the brain and the links to higher rates of Alzheimer's and even autism. So we want to really keep the body not inflamed. We want to turn the flame down on the inside. So it's anti-inflammatory. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is that it's really high in fiber. And what's the value of fiber? Well, we've talked in a number of our previous podcasts or blogs, vlogs, whatever you call this, about the value of fiber for the microbiome. The microbiome is responsible for 60 to 80% of our immune response. It keeps us healthy. It fights off disease. and it's a healthy microbiome that does that the best. What the microbiome, the microbes in our gut eat, is fiber. So though fiber is often considered not to be a nutrient, it is essential to our health. So that's about it for now. Anything else you wanted to add, sweetheart?
No, that was splendid.
Okay.
I'm just so happy to be with everyone, and thank you for joining us. Go in your kitchen, get some lentils out, and make a great dish. Simple. Thanks.